Summer Mittendorf, and this is my presentation for the ECE 216 drone. The goal of the assignment was to create a drone that could carry a package for emergency relief operations. There was a certain emphasis placed on keeping the design creative, which had major influence on my drone. It needed to be large enough to carry the package, have more than 10 parts, have motion, a power source, and also a controller chip. The two pictures on the left were my initial sketches of the 3 separate drones. There's 2 on the left picture and 1 in the middle. I didn't end up going with any of these drones in particular. I kind of like meshed them all into one that I thought would be the most optimal. The claw arms ended up being the most like the picture in the middle, and then I kept the flower aspect from the propellers on the first one as part of the creativity aspect, and then the propellers ended up being a mix between the first drone on the left and the middle drone. And then the image on the right was my Imagine map, where that's when I looked at it and kind of decided to mix up different parts of the 3 different drones into one drone. This is my decision matrix, and at the bottom, I kind of like took what I thought was the best out of the 3 of them and turned it into one drone rather than just picking whichever one I thought was the most optimal right off the bat, which I determined was the first one that had the flower-shaped propellers. Each option definitely had more than 10 parts. They all had moving propellers and also moving arms or whatever it was being used to hold the package. And then I hadn't quite determined what the materials were going to be for any of them yet. And then creativity wise, I mixed them all together, so I think that made it more creative than just picking any of the individual 3. For my parts, the first part that I made was the flower top cover. This part doesn't actually have any functionality. It just acts as the cover so that the top isn't open, and it also is what made my drone pretty. And then the motor housing, there's 4 of them, and they sit on the end of each of the arms they just act as a case to go around the motors. And then this third part in the middle is the base to my drone. And then the claw arm, these are what hang off the sides. There's a circle on the base where they're attached and they're free to rotate. But those are what will hold the package, and then the motor. And then this one on the top left was the flight controller board, and the battery tray. Those are both parts that are just on the inside of the drone. And then my propellers, there's 4 of them. In the image, it's not actually connected because I had to make it its own separate assembly because there was something that kept going wrong when I did the twist function on it. But in the actual drone, they are all connected. And then the next part is the arms. There's also 4 of them. This is what the motor housing and the motor sits on the end, the round part, and then the square part is what connects to the drone base. And then this is my battery. It's also on the inside. The spacer was just to go under the controller board so that it wasn't sitting flat on it. It had space between the board and the frame. And then these bottom few parts are just extra pins that I made to help hold things in place. This is one of the drawings. This is actually 3 of them. This first one shows my exploded view. I'm not sure what's happening on the right, why all those arrows are there, because it wasn't there on the drawing, but Yeah, and then this one on the right shows that whole drone with three different perspectives of it. And then on the bottom, it shows the um, section from this one's the middle, and then there's also the alternative position where the claw arms are facing up instead of down to show that they're free to rotate. Um, this one on the left, this is the drawing for my propellers, the drawing for motor housing, flower top motors, and drone base, all with three separate views and their dimensions. And then my overall cost ranged from $450 for a lower quality drone to $850 for a higher quality one. And I think my drone would perform relatively well at the given task and fits the criteria when it comes to creativity and also the strength of it. The parts all move as intended, and there were more parts than the instruction deemed necessary. Um, However, I think if it were to be a real drone, it would be better if the claws could all work in unison instead of rotating individually, and if it also had some sort of GPS system or cameras so that it could like see where it was going. Also, oh, when I was writing this, I didn't actually realize that I never put any way for it to land. So if it had some sort of like landing legs, it would probably be more optimal. But yeah.